I'm Errol Barnett at the CBS Broadcast Center in New York, and we have this breaking news out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, where Harvard President Claudine Gay has announced she is resigning from office. In her resignation letter sent just moments ago, she announced her resignation with, quote, a heavy heart, and said she did not come to the decision easily. She also said her resignation is in the best interests of Harvard during this, quote, moment of extraordinary challenge. Dr. Gay has been facing increasing criticism over her response to anti-Semitism on campus, especially following last month's congressional testimony, you may remember. She's also facing plagiarism allegations regarding her academic work. Gay served the shortest presidency in the university's history at just over 6 months. No word yet on who will officially succeed her. CBS News Congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins us now with more on this breaking announcement. Nikole, Dr. Gay mentioned that she made this decision in consultation with the corporation. That's Harvard's highest governing body. Talk to us about how the university is responding to this major news.
Well, the Harvard Corporation, which is one component, as you mentioned, of Harvard's governing body, said that it does thank President Gay for her deep and unwavering commitment. As President Gay noted, she did make this decision in consultation with the corporation, which is notable because it was the Harvard Corporation that came out in support of President Gay just late last year, of course, following those congressional hearings that we saw led by the House Education Committee, particularly that line of questioning by Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, the Republican conference chair, where she asked all of the college presidents from Harvard, from the University of Pennsylvania, and from MIT, whether or not they believe that calling for the genocide of Jews violates their code of conduct. And in most instances, all of these presidents responded by saying that it depends on the context, and that set off a really fiery exchange between Congresswoman Stefanik and all of these presidents. And what's notable is this is now the second college president that we have seen resign as a wake of that particular hearing. Of course, soon after the hearing, we saw the president of the University of Pennsylvania step down, Liz McGill. An interim replacement has been named there, but now President Claudine Gay, or former President Claudine Gay, now becoming the second of 3 college presidents to resign following that hearing last year.
And Nikole, the corporation, in sending out an email to the school, mentioned that the interim president of Harvard will be Alan M. Garber, provost and chief academic officer for many years, as they now begin a new search for a new permanent president. But as you mentioned, the corporation showed support of Dr. Gay after that December testimony, which led to the resignation of the University of Pennsylvania president. But something changed then. In this past month, there have been these multiple allegations of plagiarism in Dr. Gay's work. Speak to us about what that centered on, how she responded to it, and why ultimately it may not have been enough.
Well, these plagiarism claims arose soon after the fallout from that congressional hearing. And in fact, Claudine Gay was forced to make corrections to her dissertation. This was, she studied at Harvard, received her PhD there. And so initially she made 2 corrections, but then there were calls for her to make some additional updates and corrections as well. And that also caught the attention of congressional lawmakers, again, the House Education Committee, where we saw the chair of that committee launch an investigation not only into Harvard, but also, again, into University of Pennsylvania, MIT, and other colleges with respect to their policies around anti-Semitism. But this side issue of these plagiarism allegations also did raise some concern by committee members who, as part of their investigation, also wanted to get to the bottom of it. Now, at the time when this all unfolded, Claudine Gay and the university came out with a statement defending her work And, obviously, though, perhaps maybe that was not sufficient. It wasn't explicitly cited in her letter to the Harvard community, but certainly did raise concerns among not only members of Congress, but also students and alumni as well.
Yeah, in the statement the corporation released, it mentions that Dr. Gay will now resume her faculty position. She was formerly the Dean of Social Science and the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Sciences. But the Harvard Crimson notes that now, with this resignation, she has the distinction of having the shortest tenure in school history of just 6 months and 2 days. Just while we have a few more moments with you, Nikole, is there a larger chill that this resignation, the previous resignation from the University of Pennsylvania, might have on higher institutions, or is there no larger national consequence of what we're seeing here?
Well, I think many might wonder what may happen at MIT because, again, the president there also gave a similar response during that congressional hearing. Now, contrary to the case of, for instance, the University of Pennsylvania, we also saw MIT's governing board or corporation come out pretty soon after that congressional hearing in support of Dr. Kornbluth, who is the president of MIT. But of course, now with the resignation of Claudine Gay and of Liz Magill last year at the University of Pennsylvania, it does raise questions as to whether or not perhaps the university's board may reconsider, if more pressure may now mount on President Kornbluth to follow suit, since she also gave a very similar answer with respect to the line of context. So that being said, obviously it's not a one-size-fits-all approach where just because this happened at other universities, it could happen to her as well. But it is a question that will likely be asked. And also, the other question is kind of what this means for the congressional investigation that was launched over this. Again, you had many lawmakers, including Chair Stefanik, who were calling for these presidents to resign. So now that we have seen the resignation of Claudine Gay and Liz Magill, does that silence their criticisms, or will they continue full steam ahead with this congressional probe? So, my guess is that the probe will continue, but it does accomplish what many lawmakers had been calling for on both sides of the aisle. And
Congresswoman Stefanik had sent out a tweet saying one down after that first resignation. So as you so rightly point out, what may happen next. Nikole Killion, thank you for joining us on this breaking story. Harvard President Claudine Gay resigning from her position, returning it to a faculty role. Nikole, thank you.
You bet.